Well, welcome to our session today, Facilitating Small Group Discussion Online using Blackboard Collaborate Breakout Rooms. We're so glad that you have joined us today, those of you that are participating live, as well as those who may be viewing the archive of this, whether it be on online or even in a podcast form, as we do make our program archives available as video podcasts that you can access from within iTunes. And I'll share some details at the end of the session today for those that might be interested in trying that out, where you can find the podcast and you can access this and other program archives that we have made available. My name is Jason Rohde, and I'm the Assistant Director of the Faculty Development and Instructional Design Center at Northern Illinois University. And pleased to be with you today. I've been leading a series of these online sessions regarding various tips and best practices for using some of the advanced features in the Blackboard Collaborate web conferencing platform. So feel free as we go along today, those of you participating live, ask questions. I'll try to respond to any questions that you have. But even after today, if other questions come up as you get started using Collaborate, and in particular the breakout room features that we're going to talk about today, feel free to get back in touch with me. I'd be happy to work with you to resolve any questions that you might have. So today's workshop is really about looking specifically at the breakout rooms feature, and we have offered other workshops that have delved into some of the other feature sets within Blackboard Collaborate web conferencing. We have most recently looked at the whiteboard, which the breakout rooms that we're going to talk about today, a key component, a feature set within the breakout rooms is the use of the whiteboard. So I don't have the time today to go in depth into the whiteboard itself, but feel free to go back and take a look at the whiteboard archive to get a better sense of the features and specific functionality that's there. Everything that I talked about as far as the whiteboard, those feature sets are available in the breakout rooms that we're going to talk about today. But we will focus on small group discussions, and that's really where breakout rooms shine, is in facilitating small group discussions within a live web conferencing session. And so during our workshop, our objectives really are to explore the various options that you have within Blackboard Collaborate when it comes to organizing students into small groups for discussion. And lots of different use cases. I'll try to highlight a couple of those here, but there are many reasons why you might want to break students into small groups. So we're not going to delve too deeply into all of those possibilities, but I do want to make sure that I highlight some key steps and key workflows, if you will, that you often will want to be aware of when you're using breakout rooms. So for example, how do you go about creating breakout rooms? There's different ways of creating them. So we're going to kind of highlight what those different ways are. Whether it be you can manually create them, you can have the system automatically break the students into these discussion groups. We'll also talk about how you assign students to breakout rooms. Again, you can manually move students to breakout rooms, or you can automatically have the system just place them into groups. Then how do you go about moving whiteboard content to and from the rooms? Every breakout room does have a whiteboard, and so we're going to talk about that. And then how do you, as the moderator, how are you able to move from room to room to, in essence, step in and participate, hear what the conversation is, answer questions if they arise, and so forth. So that's really what we'll hope to accomplish here during the workshop today. So what is a breakout room? First question we need to answer. It really is it mimics the classroom session that we're a part of even right now. This large group space that we have, basically just envision having a subset of that for a particular smaller group. That's really what it's for. And you can use it for facilitating small group activities, brainstorming activities, case studies, role plays, and you can also use it for private meetings. So in the case where you need to meet individually with a member of the larger class, you could also do that within a smaller breakout room as well. Each breakout room has its own audio, its own whiteboard, its own application sharing, its own video. So in essence, all of the features that we do have in the entire room here, you do have access to in the breakout room. Something that is important to keep in mind is what happens in the breakout rooms is not recorded. It's not captured in the recording. So for example, right now we are recording this session that we're offering live. If I were to break us into breakout rooms, I could continue to record what's happening in the main room, but any of those conversations, any whiteboard work, none of that gets captured in the breakout rooms. So if your purpose is to somehow capture what a group is discussing and record that and be able to come back and look at that later, you're not able to do that within the breakout rooms. Only the main room is recorded. So that's something to keep in mind. As a moderator, which when you are leading a Blackboard Collaborate session, you would be the moderator, you can create any number of breakout rooms, and you can do so at any time during the session. So you can, on the fly, and I'm going to show you this, how you can just on the fly create a breakout room, or you can you can log in early before the students come in, and you can have a certain number of rooms kind of preset. However you prefer to kind of maintain them and go through that setup is really up to you. And then as a moderator, you can move participants and content into and between breakout rooms and the main room. So it's a very flexible workflow in the sense that you can easily put students in breakout rooms, pull them back to the room, and then if you want to put them back in those same discussion groups, those breakout rooms, to continue discussing like you often would in a face-to-face class, you can easily do that. The system is really designed for that, and I think that's what sets apart Blackboard Collaborate perhaps from other popular web conferencing tools, is it really is designed specifically for education use, and they've tried to think through some of these educational use cases in some of the workflows that you have for managing users and using the different tool sets that are available. So why would you use breakout rooms? And this is somewhat obvious, but I think it's helpful to underscore again that really any time that you want to provide students with a small group discussion space, that's when you would want to make use of the breakout room feature. So anytime you're looking to replicate that in-class small group discussion experience, breakout rooms are really designed for that. And there's lots of different applications for that, reasons you might want to do that. That's really the key. You're also able to give a group of students their own whiteboard to brainstorm ideas or take notes of their discussions. So currently we're all in this larger main room, if you will. This whiteboard is available where I could enable for all of us to take notes and such on here, but it's something that ultimately I would maintain control of, being the moderator. When you put students into breakout rooms, they then become moderators in a sense that within that small breakout room, they have access to the whiteboard, the audio, the video, so they can freely talk and brainstorm and collaborate, and then when you're ready, you can bring them back into the main session. You can meet individually with a student. So some of the use cases for this, faculty that use Blackboard Collaborate for online office hours. You could have a main session set up so a student would come in, and maybe you have a placeholder slide like the slide you're seeing here, where you had some instructions, you welcome the students to the online office time, and that perhaps you give them some instruction like raise your hand when you're ready if you'd like to have a private, speak privately with me. And you can then, as the faculty, you could put that student into an on-the-fly breakout room with just you. You could speak with that student just like mimicking what you would do during a physical office hour, where you might shut your door to speak with that student in confidentiality. And then when that student's finished, of course, you'd open the door and you'd let the next student in. Well, you could use your main room as kind of that staging area. And then in the breakout rooms, that would be a place where you could individually address the questions that one particular student might have. And then when you're finished, move them back to the main room, they could leave and you could bring in another student into a breakout. So those kinds of, anytime you'd want to pull a group of users together in a private area, troubleshooting with a student that's having a technical issue, pulling them into a breakout room. I've been a part of web conferencing sessions where maybe the moderators, there are a few moderators that are going to be kind of leading a session, and maybe just before the session starts, they all quickly go into a breakout room to use the audio and quickly converse with one another while the rest of the participants are in the main room, so that they don't necessarily hear that. So there are those kinds of incidental uses too, where breakout rooms really can become very helpful. So let's kind of walk through getting started and how you create these. And what I thought I would do, what I opted to do today was to kind of put this into using screenshots. I could try and actually move us into the rooms so that you could experience it. I think for the sake of the fact that we're recording this, it may come across better for me to just kind of walk through this and demonstrate with screenshots. I'm happy to, for anyone that's interested, after we finish the recording, I can quickly go through and put us in a room and let you see what that's like. But let me first of all just kind of walk through the process. So there's a couple ways that you can create these rooms. The first would be what we might call the formal process of formally creating breakout rooms. And what you would do is when you're ready to make these rooms, you would look in the participants panel, which is that box that you see on toward the left-hand side where the participants are listed. And you look for, on the right side of that, there is it's called the Global Options menu. It looks like a little down arrow with some horizontal lines. That's actually a menu button. And when you click on that, you'll see a panel that appears called the Global Options menu. And this is where, as a moderator, this is where you can enable the global permissions up here, so you can turn on the whiteboard access for all of the users. Applications you can give or take away permissions right here. But there is an option to create breakout rooms. So when you're ready to make some breakout rooms, and let's just say, for example, you want to break students into 4 groups, you would click on this Create Breakout Rooms option that you have here in the Global Options menu. And you would then see a dialog box that looks like this. And what you're able to do then is to give a default name. Now this workflow is really designed to automatically create any number of rooms for you. You could, however, just create a single one using the same process. But here's what we would do is we would put in the name of the room. So you could, I think it defaults to just the name room, but you could call it discussion group, work group, but whatever you put in here as the name, then depending on the number of rooms, will be kind of appended at the end would be the number. So you'll have room 1, room 2, room 3, and room 4 in this example here. So you specify that default name, and then you also you have some distribution options. So the first option is to don't move participants. So if you click on this, you're just creating some empty rooms that you can then manually move users into, and I'll walk through how you manually can put users in rooms in just a moment. So that's one option. Distribute participants evenly means it will just randomly, depending on how many rooms you have, maybe there are 4 discussion questions that you want each group to work through. So 4 makes the logical sense as far as a number. If you had 20 students, they would be 5 per group. They would be distributed. And the system will automatically do that and put those students in those rooms for you. So you do have that option. You also can choose to divide into groups of, and you can specify a particular number. So I want, if you were to leave this number of rooms blank and you enter down here, I want them to divide them into groups of 3. However many groups are needed to make that happen, the system will do that for you. And if you don't want yourself counted in that, you can just check this box, include moderators in distribution. Don't check it, and you won't be then moved into the room. And that's typically what faculty will do, is they don't check that option. And then when you hit the Create button, as soon as you do that, these rooms are instantaneously created. And if you specified the distribute options, the members will then be in those rooms. So in a matter of literally seconds, you can do this and have them automatically distributed. Now the participants panel, which is of course again the area where we're listed, that gets updated and you'll see the breakout rooms be listed there. That's where they appear, and I'll show you that in another screenshot here in a moment. And something to keep in mind is that when the last participant is moved out of the room and the whiteboard content do stay in the room. So that when you create rooms this way and you kind of formally set them up, they will persist throughout the session. So you can pull everybody back into the main room. You can go back into that room. You can see what was done. You can actually move participants actually from the main room back into the breakout room after you've distributed them, which is really helpful. So let's say at the beginning, maybe you speak for 10 minutes, you present, and then you want to break students into small groups. You can go through this process, create the rooms, they get broken into those groups. Maybe they discuss for 5 minutes, and then you want to pull them all back together. And then at some point, you may want to then put them back into those small discussions. You can very easily put them back into those rooms. Blackboard will remember which rooms the users were assigned to, and they'll be put back into those same discussion groups. So that's creating the kind of the formal process. Once you create those rooms, let's say that maybe you don't want to, you've created those groups, but you didn't actually put the students automatically in those. So a good example would be, I worked with a faculty member who was teaching a graduate course, and she wanted to set up group discussion areas for the students. And she was going to, it's a graduate seminar, she was going to, at a certain point in the class meeting that they were going to conduct online, she wanted to put the students into groups. She already had the groups specified. It was an education course, and so they were set up by grade level that they taught. She wanted to be able to put the students, she wanted to have those groups set up, and then in advance load onto their whiteboard discussion question prompts, things that they should discuss in those small groups. So she logged in early, she created the rooms, she went into each of the rooms and put content on the whiteboard, but she didn't assign the students to the rooms yet because they hadn't logged in. She was getting in advance and setting that up. So what she then did is, during her presentation then when it was time to put them into the rooms, she already had them created. She simply went through this process of manually sending the participants into the rooms. And so there's really a two-step process. The way you can do this, you can put them into rooms. And so what you'll do first and foremost is in the participants panel, so you would, in the sidebar here, you can see that there are two groups set up, and this is what you would see depending on the number of rooms. These two are discussion group 1 and discussion group 2. The label when it was created was discussion group, and then just the number is added after that. So in the participants panel, you simply click on the names of the participants. So here I could click on this student that's listed here that I want to move into the room, and then you hold down the Shift or Control key. You can do that to select multiple participants. So if you had 3 students, you could multi-select them. And then you can right-click, or if you're on a Mac, you hold down the Control key and click, and you'll see this permissions window that pops up. And then if you just go down to the Send to Breakout Room submenu, there's another little window that pops over, and you can then click you can select which room you want to send them to. So you can very easily pick the room, and it will put them automatically then into that room. The other way you can do this is you can actually click and drag. So by clicking on this student and dragging, you can drag and drop this student into this particular group. The dragging and dropping does work within this participant panel here. And that was my second slide here, is if you can drag and drop the participants as well as the moderator. You can move yourself from the main room into any of the rooms simply by holding down the mouse and dragging them to the room once you've selected them, and then you just release the mouse button and they will be then in the correct room that you've specified. So you as the moderator, you're going to want to move yourself into the breakout rooms from time to time as well, just like you would in a physical classroom. You broke students into 4 groups, the 4 corners of the room, and you walked from group to group to just kind of see what's going on and listen in a bit, maybe contribute. How do you move yourself into the rooms? There's a couple ways to do it. As I already mentioned, you can drag and drop yourself from the main room into the rooms that appear. But what I find is easier because it's just simple, it's easier to click sometimes, is to just use the main room button. So once you've set up breakout rooms, you'll see this button here appear in the participant area. And this is for you to click on, and then you can move yourself very easily to either of the groups. In this example, I have 2 breakout rooms, 2 discussion groups set up. Just clicking on that particular group will move you to that room. So click, click, and you're in. You can, like I said, do the dragging and dropping, and that's mentioned down here. Sometimes, depending on the number of groups that you have, the breakout rooms, it's just, you have to be a little more precise, and sometimes I'll accidentally put myself in the wrong group because I missed the little gray rectangle where you have to kind of put yourself to go into that room. So that's why I prefer, personally, to just click on the main room button and select the room that I want to put myself in. Now the other approach to creating breakout rooms is to create them on the fly. So you, on a whim, you decide that you want students to break up and discuss. Or you just want to create a single group, a private breakout room. You can easily create those kind of on the fly automatically. In the participants panel, you simply click on the names of the participants that you want to move into the breakout room. So maybe it's you and another student, and you want to just put yourselves quickly into a room, or create an ad hoc group kind of on the fly. You just select those students. You can hold down the Shift or Control key to select multiple students. And then when you right-click or Control-click to get, again, this menu that appears, you do have the option, rather than sending them to an established room, you can create a new private breakout room. So this would be just to create a single room very quickly. And this is, again, considered this on-the-fly room that is set up. You don't get to specify the name, I don't believe. One of the features of this room is that when the participants are moved from the room and back into the main room, that this type of room automatically closes. So whereas currently you see we have these 2 discussion groups were formally set up, there's no one in them at the moment, but they still remain in the participant list. If you create a private breakout room, if you go through this approach, the room is created, you have the same features. The issue becomes when you leave, that room dissolves basically. It doesn't appear in the same list that you would have, and you lose any content also that's in there. So if you were using the whiteboard in one of these on-the-fly rooms, when you leave that room, that it all is removed from the main room. It's not accessible. Whereas these more traditional, formal rooms that we've created that do persist, anything that's added to the whiteboard does stay on the whiteboard as long as the session is active. Now, the other thing you can do is you can allow participants to move themselves from room to room. And there probably aren't a lot of cases for this. I could see periodically, maybe in a graduate level type of a seminar course, maybe you have some discussion topics, and maybe you set up some different groups, discussion breakout rooms, and then users can self-select, and they can put themselves, they can pick which discussion group they want to be a part of. All you'd have to do is simply go up to Tools. After you've set up your rooms, go up to Tools, Breakout Rooms, and then you would select this option to allow participants to move themselves to breakout rooms. And when what happens is they're able to use that same, either that main room button that I mentioned a bit ago, or they can use the drag and drop feature to put themselves in a room. Moving users automatically. You can move all of the users automatically to, from the room, the breakout rooms back to the main room, and then return them very easily. It's really simple to do that. So here you can see an example. I have one student who's in this discussion group, and I want to, I could have any number of groups, and I want to move them all back to the main room. Simply clicking on the main room button, there is an option to return everyone to the main room from the breakout rooms. And then likewise, when you are in the main room and you decide to put the students back in those discussions, again, you simply click on the main room button, click on return everyone to breakout rooms, and this will put them back in those same rooms, discussion groups that they were in previous. Copying screens from the breakout room to the main room is something else that you may want to do, especially let's say, for example, that in those discussion groups you're having the users, the students, use the whiteboard to brainstorm ideas. Maybe you have someone assigned as a scribe for the discussion for the group, and they're kind of taking notes, bullets, or so forth on kind of what the group discussed to be able to come back and share with the larger group. As a moderator, what you can do is you can then copy, when you pull everyone back to the main room, you can easily go through and copy all of the whiteboard screens from the breakout rooms to the main room directly from the room menu. So again, clicking on the room itself, in the participants panel, you can select the room options menu, and then within the room, so you can pick on the room, and then you can say to copy the whiteboard for this particular room into the main room. So you can do it, one at a time. You could copy that in. What I typically do is I'll copy all of the whiteboard screens, kind of do it all at once, and that's actually I showed that. You might have noticed that here within the main room button, there is an option here to copy all whiteboards to the main room. So you can very easily, after you've returned everyone to the main room, you can then also click to copy all of the whiteboards to the main room, and then you'll be able to, from within the content menu, you can then access any of the slides, any of the whiteboards that the users in those breakout rooms were making use of. So again, this is that copy all whiteboards to the main room, and that's a commonly used feature when you're having students discuss and use the whiteboard. Now the other thing that you may occasionally want to do is rename a breakout room. So you've created it and you decide that perhaps I want to call it something else. In this case, discussion group 1 and 2, maybe I want to call it something else. To do that, you simply right-click or control-click on the particular room that you have, and then there's an option to simply rename the breakout room. And you'll be able to type in the name, and then you can call it whatever you would like. Now, like I said, these breakout rooms, when you formally create them, they stay within the system. But let's say that you no longer want them listed, you no longer need the content that may be on the whiteboards within those rooms. It would be a good idea at that point to go ahead and close out the breakout room so it no longer appears in your list. If that's something that you want to do during a session, you can. You simply right-click or, again, control-click or on a Mac, and when that dialog option appears, that box, there's a close breakout room option. So that'll not only close it, that if there are participants still in the room, they're moved automatically back to the main room. It's just really important to keep in mind to print or save the whiteboard slides before you close. Because once you close the room, if there's any content on the whiteboard, you lose all of that. So that would just be the one caution when you do this. As long as you keep those rooms open and you keep them within the session, you can go back into them. You can easily copy content from them into the main room. Something else you may want to do is then to save or print the whiteboard. And I mentioned this in the whiteboard workshop, but I wanted to highlight it here again as well. a student within their small breakout room might want to save the contents of the whiteboard, or you as the faculty, after you've moved and copied the whiteboard from the different breakout rooms into the main room, you could actually go ahead and save or print all of them to have an archive to take with you out of the main session, if you will. And it's really very easy to do that. You go up to the File menu, you go to then Save or Print, and select the whiteboard, and you can pick either all pages, the selected page, or current pages. And you do have an option to either then save it as a PDF, as a whiteboard file. So for those of you participating live today, if you wanted to save a copy of all of these slides that I'm sharing during the presentation, you could do this right now. You could actually go up to File and then Save or Print, and then pick the whiteboard, and you could select all pages, click OK, and then you would have access to them. All right, so let's recap a little bit of kind of what we've walked through, and then I'll actually we'll wrap up, and then I'll demonstrate a little bit of kind of what it's like to be moved into a room, so you can see what that's like from a user's perspective. So we've looked at creating breakout rooms. I've talked about how you assign the students to the breakout rooms, different ways you can do that, whether it be manually or automatically. Talked about how you can move content from the breakout rooms back to the main room, and then how you can move yourself and monitor the small group discussion that may be taking place. So before I maybe go through a quick little demo, I just want to pause and see if there are any additional questions that you might have at this point before we try this out. So again, just keeping in mind that the breakout rooms they're not recordable, what happens inside of them. Can students move themselves from the breakout room to the main room? Great question. And they can, as long as you allow them to move themselves. So the feature about allowing them go hop back to that slide where they could move themselves to breakout rooms or back, you'd have to have that enabled, and then they could then move themselves back. Otherwise, if you don't select this option, they cannot move themselves back. You as the moderator would have to do that. Linda, you ask, in the breakout rooms, can the students see each other on video? They absolutely can, as long as they, all of the features that you have in the main room, you do have in the breakout rooms. So they can definitely use audio, video, web tour, application share, any of the feature sets that are available in the main room. So that's a great question. That's another good question. How many students per breakout room do you suggest? And it totally depends on your purpose for breaking them into those groups. I think really the technology is not a limitation. You can have technically as many students as you have in the main room in a breakout room. Logistically, as you think about, what's the optimal size for that type of a discussion? If it's, you can have just 2 students, you can have 3, 4, 5, 6. It's really up to the purpose for the activity. If you're going to specify, maybe you have different tasks. You want someone to be the scribe that's going to take notes on the whiteboard for what they discussed. Maybe someone's the leader, someone's a timekeeper. I like to have like 3 to 4, but that's just kind of a personal preference. You can have, if you have more than that, some students maybe won't speak up. If you have fewer than that, if it's just 2, you might not get as diverse perspectives and as rich a conversation. So I kind of like the 3 to 4 because it really kind of everybody, I think, feels compelled to respond in a smaller number, but yet it's not too small that you're not getting some diverse perspectives. Another question for a video chat: isn't the max number of students 6 like with Google Chat? Well, if video, technically you can have, Linda, as many people in a group as you want. You're correct in the sense that simultaneously, if all of the users had video, They all have webcams. Only 6 video inputs can be enabled at one time within a breakout room, but you could have 10 people and only 6 at the moment their video does a display, but that doesn't mean that they can't still participate in the text chat or turn on audio. But the system does set, there's a 6-person kind of limit, so to speak. And that's really driven by bandwidth, because if you have more than that number of computers sending audio and video back and forth, because our internet pipes, so to speak, are still somewhat limited, more than that, and it's going to degrade the experience for the users. So these are great questions, by the way, and I'm really glad you all have asked these. So I think what I'm going to do is quickly, let me just highlight I had a couple of other info items that I had, and then I'll do a quick demo after we stop the recording here for those of you that are logged in live. So I did want to just mention that Blackboard Collaborate on their support site does have a really nice kind of how-to knowledge base. And if you go to support.blackboardcollaborate.com, you'll see a menu on the left, and you can actually drill down, and you can go to Blackboard Collaborate Web Conferencing, and then click on How To and Breakout Rooms, and you can find a really nice knowledge base with answers to a lot of the different questions about how do you do certain things using the tool. And so everything I've mentioned today is also kind of archived here if you wanted to go back and review that. But more importantly, there are a lot of other how-tos for a lot of the other features. Some of the things that we haven't done workshops yet on, you could actually drill down and learn more about some of the other features that are available within Collaborate. So I just wanted to point that out, as well as NIU's Blackboard Collaborate site. And this is at niu.edu/blackboard/collaborate. This page is really devoted for moderators, for faculty, but there is also, we have a page for participating in a Collaborate session, which is really geared for students. So this would be another good resource to bookmark, or at least be aware that it's there, and you can go in and take a look for answers if you have questions. There are links to tutorials and other helps on these pages here. So also at support.blackboardcollaborate.com, in addition to the folders where you can drill down and learn about Blackboard Collaborate Web Conferencing, this is where you can, if you're having any kind of technical support, you can learn the info for contacting technical support, whether it's phone or email, is here. They do also post things like support bulletins and newsletters for those that might want to just kind of read more behind the scenes. The technical things that are happening and support that's available is all there as well. So we will continue to have other workshops on Collaborate and other online teaching tools and technologies and approaches, so you can watch our schedule for those. I did mention our archives are available online, and that's where you'll also find this archive following the session. It'll be posted there. To view the archives in iTunes, simply head over to you can search iTunes, whether it be on your computer or mobile device, for NIU Faculty Development. So if you do a search for NIU Faculty Development, you'll see our Faculty Development Program Archives podcast, and there you can download any number of, I think we're well over 60 now, archives and growing. And you can access those on your computer or your mobile device. We're also on Facebook or Twitter. You can follow us there and keep in touch there. So so with that, I'm going to stop the recording at this point. I have my contact info for those of you that are viewing the archive. You can feel free to get back in touch with me with questions that you might have. Thank you for joining us. And for everyone else, hang on, and we'll do a quick demo of the groups feature.